Right away, I throw out a lead kick followed by a jab just to see what he would do. And he's smart enough to not come in, so as I do a second one, he checks it with a nice side kick. He definitely has the reach with his legs, so once I realized my kicks weren't working, I tried to set up with a hand strikes, keep him busy. I noticed his body's open, so I try to go to kick, but he checks it really well. He's pretty defensive, backing up a lot, not really committing to his strikes, trying to understand the range a little bit, not really setting up more than 1 or 2 strikes at a time. Here he catches me with a nice roundhouse kick as I'm getting ready to throw my strike, but doesn't follow up, so I immediately come after with some combinations of my own. Here I notice his guard drops pretty low after blocking, so I try to set him up with an overhand. Once I come over with the overhand, I come underneath with a nice side kick to the body. Here we end up clashing with the same strike at the same time, but whereas he strikes and goes on defense, I strike and then follow up with a couple more counters. Here he starts really making good use of that long range side kick, but again, only throwing it by itself, not setting it up, and not following it up afterwards. I immediately tried to block parry, closing that gap, getting past those kicks so I can get into striking range. Now we're both just trying to find that range, trying to set each other up, see what kind of openings we can get, what kind of tells that we can find. Try to set him up with a reverse punch to see how he reacts, and then I do it again, but I cut my angle following with a spinning back kick, throwing a back fist after the spinning back kick just to keep him from coming in. He's doing a good job using his leg kicks to try to keep me at range, but again, not really setting them up or following them up with anything afterwards, allowing me to just kind of walk through them and follow up with some hand strikes of my own. A good job keeping distance with those kicks, but only really doing them one at a time, not following them up with anything. And it allows me to block and counter his one and answer back with 6 of my own. Here he throws a nice roundhouse kick, but without setting it up, I try to get out of the way, close the distance because he doesn't follow it up, allowing me to get in and work some hand combinations of my own. Using his jab a little bit more, giving that reach in that upper body would help. Here he changes his guard slightly, turns himself a little bit more sideways, using that lead leg and that reach to his advantage really well. Using those kicks, he's setting me up for a nice spinning back kick. Making it a little bit better would be sneaking some hands in between the kicks to keep my upper half busy. Really keep me guessing where that next strike's coming from. Here he cuts a real nice angle as I'm coming in with my hand strikes to throw that hook kick, but as he spins, he goes on defense, allowing me to quickly follow up and keep the pressure on him. Mixing your punches and your kicks together, flowing in and out between the ranges, constantly keeping them guessing and creating openings is a good way instead of throwing single or 1 or 2 shots at a time. Coming up here, I decide to stay in a little bit tighter instead of moving around at longer range to see how he'd react, and he does a good job of trapping my hands, getting in past my kicks, following up with hand strikes of his own. And here's a quick little inside, outside leg kick followed up by a couple hand strikes down the middle, putting the kicks going from long range to short range together.
That was a good stuff.
Now back at long range, he's throwing those roundhouse to hook kick combinations, But again, setting it up with a hand before or after and closing that distance would make that combination a lot better. Here I close the distance by switching my stance, coming in with a strike to the body, up to the head, setting up with the side kick back to the body. Here he ends up throwing a real nice roundhouse kick, but I use my block parry to immediately close that distance again. If he would jab out and follow up his roundhouse with some hand strikes, that would help keep me from coming in with strikes of my own. Here I'm throwing some combinations and some different strikes from different angles just to see if I could find any openings and how he's reacting to each one. Here he throws a really good right hook and then does it again, but not really setting it up with anything before and not using those kicks, allowing me to counter, and then as he comes in for the second one, use my kicks to keep him at range. Here again, I try to work being in close, working on jamming some of his techniques, where he gets some good combinations in, working in that close range. Once we go back to that longer range though, he tends to reach out a little bit more, opening up that lower body, allowing me to sneak some of my kicks underneath his guard towards his midsection. But he does a good job of taking the shot and immediately countering back with some hand strikes of his own, putting some pressure on me. Using his reach really well. He tends to slide slightly outside of my strikes a lot, making me have to chase him down, which is good defensively, but setting me up with some strikes and some counters or cutting some more angles would be more in his benefit. And here he throws a nice crescent kick followed by a back fist, but again, following it up with one or two more shots after or before would make that a little bit more successful. And here I try to set him up with some shots to the body to get him to drop that guard, hoping that he'd walk into my head roundhouse kick. Overall, great job. Work on setting up more combinations that fit for you at all different ranges.
Still on 5 minutes.